I'm Lane, DM2 Software's Vice President of Marketing. I would like to welcome everyone to today's Sage ERP Intelligence webinar. Before I introduce today's presenters, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. Because of the number of attendees we have on today's webinar, everyone's phones will stay on mute. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the the question window that you see on the lower right of your screen. We'll try to answer everyone's questions at the end of the webinar. If we're unable to get to everyone's questions, we'll follow up with each of you individually after the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. As soon as the recording is available, we'll post it on the customer content page of our website, and I'll send you an email to let you know when it's available to be downloaded. On that note, I would like to introduce today's presenters. Today we have Denise Austin, one of our professional service consultants, and joining Denise is Debbie Hill. Debbie is a senior trainer with Sage Software, and they're going to give you an overview of Sage ERP Intelligence. On that note, go ahead and take it away, Denise.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody. As Tom said, I'm Denise Austin with DM2 Software, and I'm pretty excited about what we're going to share with you today. So we'll go ahead and get started. So basically what we have today is, it's like two presentations in one. The first part, which I'm going to do, is it's a high-level introduction of what the Sage Intelligence product or solution is. And so we'll talk about what Sage Intelligence is, and we'll look at what the components are, take a quick look at some of the standard reports that come with the product upon installation. And then the second part of it is going to be, it's a new feature that Sage has given us, and it's called the Report Designer add-in, and it actually takes it one step further. It makes it much easier to work on reports, and Debbie Hill is going to be presenting that piece of it. So we're also going to look at new features for version 4.5. 4.5 is the next version DM2 is going to be releasing. And then finally we'll take questions. As Tom mentioned, if you will keep your questions till the end, if you can text them to him in the chat window, then he can keep track of them and ask them. Okay, so let's just go ahead and get started. So what is Sage Intelligence? It's an Excel-based reporting tool, and with that you have access to all modules and data, not just general ledger, but all modules and all the data within those modules. You also can report on multiple company databases. And then what probably the biggest thing for me and for most of the users is that you can save your Excel templates, meaning that after you've gone through and you've created these reports, you can save the templates, and they are linked back to the report, and when you run the report, you don't have to do any more maneuvering with your Excel. It also includes predefined financial and operation reports with user-level security. So you have these reports, which we'll be taking a look at in a few moments, and you can put user-level security on them as well. So the basic elements of the Sage Intelligent Report, we have what we call the connector. And within the connector, we have a connection. And so what does that mean? A connection is where you determine which database. And when we say which database, it's not just NAS. It can be any other database that has an ODBC connection. And then there's the container. So once you determine which database, you create a container, which then you define from that database which table or which files you're going to use. And then the final piece of it is, from that container, you're going to define which fields that you're going to use. So those are called, those are called expressions. So once you have this defined, then you go to the report manager, and within the report manager, you determine what you want to report on. So if we take a look at one more time, if we look at it from a different view, we can look at the report design part of it. So over on the far left side, we have silos that represent 3 different databases. We could have a Sage 100 from one database at 2 separate Sage 100s and maybe Sage CRM. From there, we open the connector module, and remember, we would build that connection to that database, and we define in the containers the data to be included. And then I had made mention to the fact that you can connect to databases as long as they have an ODBC connection. There are multiple drivers that are available, and here's a quick list that are available just when you open it up. So these are just a sample of some of the drivers that are available. They also comes with some predefined containers for Sage Math. Because we do have predefined reports, we would need those containers to exist as well. From the connector, we go back into the report manager. This is where we're going to design the reports that's based on those containers that are out there. From the report manager, we can define the sorting and parameters and filtering options rather than having to do it in Excel. We can also include summation options, and this is where we build and run the reports that go out to Excel. So once you've created your report, you'll run the report and it will put it out to your Excel workbooks. So that's the basic components and elements of report designing. Sage, I'd mentioned before that Sage Intelligence comes with some standard reports, and there's a dashboard analysis, there's financial reports, your typical ones you expect, income statement, balance sheet, etc. It has a financial trend analysis, a general ledger transaction details. So these second, third, and fourth one are specific to the general ledger, but as noted initially, it's not only general ledger that you can use Sage Intelligence for, it's also for the other modules. So it comes with a customer sales report, a vendor purchases report, and an inventory status report. And we're going to just take a quick look at some of what these reports look at. We won't run them, but I'll just show you quickly what they do look at. So first of all is the dashboard analysis tool. And when you run that dashboard analysis tool, it is a collection of data. So up in the top part, we have profit and loss. We also have a section that is expenses, and a section for customers and items, top 5 items, top 5 product lines, bottom 5 items, bottom 5 product lines. It's all together in one screen, so you can look at it from a quickly to make decisions or just see where you're at. But the other thing that this dashboard allows you to do is you can drill down. So if you were in your top 5 customers, for instance, looking at the William Brothers construction and wanted to know what that $239,000 consisted of, by highlighting it and drilling down, it brings you up some information specific to what makes up that $239,000. So it gives you the detail that supports it. The next one is the predefined financial reports. So these reports are, there are 11 different types of them, and there are quite a few options here. These are reports that you can select, you can run, and they will give you this information. They are, I think they've been called the management pack reports, if you will, but these are essentially if you just want to run reports and don't want to make too many changes, then you would use these predefined financial reports. So they're here. You can run these reports from a single company, and you can also do multiple companies as well, consolidated reporting. Then we have the Sage Intelligence Report Designer for the financial reports only. And what this does, this actually is a tool that is for financial reporting, your income statements and your balance sheets, but it gives you that a little more flexibility. You have a little more control over the design of the report, and you use a drag and a drop functionality. So if you were to run the report designer report, it will take you out to a screen similar to this, and then you go in and you select the load layout. So if you notice, you have 8 options for reports that you might want to run, and you have the options of edit, copy, delete, or generate. Just like with all of the standard Sage reports, we never want to edit. It's not good practice to edit the existing standard report. So we recommend, as a good best practice, is to make a copy of it. So in the case to do that, you would simply select, for instance, IS versus prior, select the copy, and once you select the copy, then you can rename it. I just changed the VS prior, but you could rename it anything you want it to be. You could say, you know, actual 12 months, but it's going to represent what your report's going to look like. Once you say next, you're taken into this layout generator. I've heard a lot of different. We have somebody that calls it the game console, so it reminds them of the gaming console. But from here, you have flexibility of determining what you want the rows of your reports to look like and what you want the columns of your report to look like. And this is where you use that drag and drop, so you can select and you can just drag things up to the top. You can also clear all, you can add spacers, you can add predefined totals and summations. So you can do all of that from the load generator layout. After you make that change, then you can just simply select Generate Layout, and it'll present a report. So this looks certainly different than what you would get if you would have ran one of the other reports. And what we essentially did is we just took out everything. We just wanted to see period activity. So with the Sage Intelligence Report Designer, we were able to have a little more flexibility and have a little more control. But still, it's in that environment that you already have. Most of the layout is there. And if we went back and took a look at what in that layout generator, we would see that the format of the report is already there. You just have control of how you want it to look. So the basic information, your revenue and your cost of goods and your gross profit and your gross profit percentage, that information is already there for you, and you're controlling the output. Also, here's a sample of some other reports that are there. The trend analysis report. This is a great report. You can put in a GL number, and once that comes up, you have the ability to drill down. And if you were looking at something and you thought, I really don't understand what's going on here, and you can take a look at, you can select drill down on it, and it's going to give you all of that supporting information for period 3. So if you were curious about why period 3 looked the way that it did, you would drill down and select period 3, and it'll show you the period 3 information. So it does have that drill down capability. And then this is just a quick look at what the customer sales reports look like. It's written off of the AR history, and it's this comes out of the box. You have some date ranges. You can you run the date range from the beginning, but you also have some filtering options here. And as you change these, it's going to change what it looks like down here. Okay. And then the vendor purchases report, just like customer, this is off of vendor history. And again, it is by date. You can filter it. Once you're in Excel, you can use the filters here, product line, warehouse, or description, and that, of course, is going to change what it looks like for out there. Another standard report is the inventory report, again, written off of inventory history, and you can control what it looks like by changing the filters. You determine the date up front when you're running the report, but clearly once you get out here using your Excel skills, you can make those changes. So those are a list of the standard reports, but I just wanted to also give you just a little peek into something, some of the options that you can do with industry reporting. So what I did is I created a report off of bill of lading history, and this is just gallons by terminal by date. I gathered all that information, sent it out to Excel. Using my Excel skills, I was able to do some things like determine how, my date range, how I wanted my vendors sorted, and I wanted my terminals across here. But I also was able to, as a Excel function, apply heat maps. And so just quickly I can go be drawn to what I want to look at. I want to see red for me is I need to give that some attention, or it's going to be pivotal in me making my decisions. So this is just a sample of some of the industry reporting that you can do as well. So now I'm ready to that's basically very high level of what the components are of Sage Intelligence and what the standard reports that you receive, and how, what they consist of and what they look like. And so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to turn the session over to Debbie Hill so she can introduce to you the new Report Designer add-in.
Great, thanks Denise, and again, hi everyone, thanks so much for coming today. So what we have now is the latest and greatest of the Sage Intelligence reporting enhancements, and we'll go ahead and take a look through that. All right, so here's the quick agenda.
Okay, Debbie, this is Tom. I just made you, let's see, okay, I made you the presenter, but I'm still seeing the go to meeting screen.
How's that?
There we go. Perfect.
Okay. There we go. All technicalities under control.
There we go. No problem.
All right, so this latest enhancement to Sage Intelligence, again, is just part of the bunch of new functionality that we're putting into the product. And again, the purpose is to make financials a whole lot easier for our customers. So I'm going to compare kind of what Denise went through with the existing, what's been around for the past 12 years, that layout generator, and we'll compare what this new add-in tool is. We'll go over when to use which tool, and primarily, though, we'll take a look at it in the demonstration. All right, so what you have right now with Sage Intelligence, again, what's been around for 12 years, there's sort of two options for financial reports. The first one is the standard financial report or management pack. It's really just a list of reports. And if you've run it out before, you'll notice the income statement, balance sheet. Those are just little macros. Those macros will execute a specific financial statement. Now, to make any modifications, that's absolutely possible. However, it is very heavy in Excel. You're going to make, again, modify the macros or use VLOOKUPs, real, in my opinion, deep technical Excel skills. So the other option, which the majority of our customers do use, as Denise mentioned, is that report layout generator. That's a little tool that sits on top of Excel, and you can drag and drop all the little fields around to get the report format the way you like it. That's obviously a lot easier because you're dragging the formulas and the figures. You don't have to create them. So that's where we are today. But what we've created is this Report Designer add-in. And it now allows you to build a report piece by piece. And again, using the benefits of Excel, we can reuse all those pieces. The in-memory engine is something that we developed internally, proprietary in-memory engine, and that is, in a nutshell, going to increase performance immensely because instead of waiting for one command to run at a time, every command will run simultaneously, so we can get through that a lot quicker. This new add-in does sit on top of the Report Designer. So if you already own the Report Designer, this will come, you just need to work with Denise and team, and we can get that installed. We will see in the demonstration how to create reports from scratch using Excel. So you kind of start with a blank Excel canvas, but we'll also see some predefined reports. And again, ultimately, this is going to give you the most flexibility. You can completely control on a cell-by-cell basis what is in your report. And because it is Excel, that's going to minimize our learning curve, so you don't have to learn another tool. So here's how the new Report Designer add-in works. Again, as we discussed before, you've got all your pieces of data. That goes through the connector. And what this means too, even though we're talking about financials, if you need to pull additional information onto that financial report, if you want to pull in some vendor numbers or maybe some other detail, you absolutely can. One of the benefits of intelligence, again, we're combining information across multiple modules, multiple databases. But more focus back on our add-in, we get all that information, it goes through the in-memory engine, all the formulas are calculated using the SQL technology, using that fast running engine in the background, and then it ends up into Excel. So once we've got all of our formatting in Excel, again, we save it, so we only have to format that report once and never format it again. You can see in the Report Designer the different components here. The reporting trees, again, that was new with the latest release. There's also the layout generator, which has been around for 12 years, but the add-in, that's the latest and greatest that is included in the Report Designer. So you can see right below Report Designer, we do have distribution options. Again, as of 4.5, you can distribute your reports in any way, shape, or form. And those are not limited to financials, so that's why it's a little separate box there. Again, just trying to make this end of week, end of month, whatever your reporting process is, we're trying to make that as painless as possible. So with the two tools, again, the layout generator, the box, the drag and drop, or this new add-in, when do I use what? So the layout generator, as I mentioned, not going anywhere, still going to be a tool, and it is really helpful if your layouts don't change that often, and the standard layouts that we provide you for are actually a sufficient formatting. So if you don't have complex formatting needs, if the reports are pretty straightforward, the layout generator is a great tool because it's literally points and click. Some of the limitations, though, you can only use one budget with that layout generator, and you can only use current and prior figures. So it is limited to 2 years. Now again, sometimes that works, sometimes we don't have the Excel skill, and that'll be just fine. If we do need a little more, and we do want to frequently change the formatting, the layout, if we have some specific requirements, maybe we have to produce our financials to a parent organization and they have very specific layouts that we have to abide by, some formatting, color schemes, etc. That's when the the Report Designer add-in is going to come into play. You actually have full control over the entire report design. So it's really literally starting with a blank canvas there. Also, the Report Designer add-in allows for multiple budgets and as many years of history as you are tracking in your GL. So with that, let's take a look at the demonstration. Simple enough. We've got an overview, we've got our lists and formulas, and our reporting templates. So I'm going to pull up my stay with me, there we go. I'm going to pull up my Excel. All right, so this is the Excel report. This is an example of the income statement, and this is the new Report Designer add-in. So you'll notice on the side here we have a whole new pane, this window pane. This is what we've written. So again, rather than sitting on top of Excel, what we have now is a tool that lays in Excel, and we can have full control and flexibility. Again, as always, you don't have to build the report from scratch. You're more than welcome to, but not obligated to. So let's go through some of these example reports. This is an income statement, really straightforward, ABX. We've got a balance sheet report. Again, formatting might apply to you, might not, but because we are in Excel, we can do a lot more with our formatting and our layouts as well. Our balance sheet, we do have a summary report. Some of the things I want to point out on our summary report, look at column A here. Look at all the fun stuff we can do with Excel. I mean fun. Did we ever think financials would be fun? Here we go. So as long as you're familiar with your chart of accounts and what you're trying to do, this is really taking FRX kind of to the next level as well. With FRX, you could do ranges and you can do masking. But now, in addition to ranges and masking, we can use algebra or basic math skills. Take a look at line 14 here. This specifics here, what we're doing is we are actually, we've got our operating expenses, but say perhaps our operating expenses kind of jump around from our chart of accounts. If that's the case, we can do and create, again, these types of formulas. So what we're looking at here is a range of accounts in the middle, 68 to 79, but we're also adding two sort of special accounts for whatever reason. They're not sequential, they didn't come in. We can add them to that. Now if I want the detail on this, say, okay, I understand that account range, I understand my chart of accounts, but what's this detail? I can right-click, drill down, and ta-da, just like that, we've got the entire detail for all those accounts. So a couple of things happen here. I can see my account number. I can see everything that's included in that range. I can unselect all and say, you know what if I just had the 6,000s? What would that bring me? So the drill down now is really powerful because you can drill down on any type of figure, and these figures can be a result of any type of formula. And again, it's just right-click, drill down, and it opens it up in a new Excel worksheet. And just like standard Excel, you do have the option to make this pivot table, pivot chart, make it completely interactive. All right, so I'll leave that tab for there for now. But some other things to take a look at. Again, wildcard and masking, so we can use specific masks, and this is just the main segment. So I don't have a whole lot of detail. I'm on a rather high level, just using that main segment. But if you need to break this out and you want to exclude specific segments, just like we have addition, we can also subtract if we wanted to remove a specific segment. So lots of options when it comes to these ranges. Really exciting. And again, now you really have full flexibility over your chart of accounts. Okay, so let's keep moving along and see some of these other standard reports just as examples. Again, this is the end result, but we will get to where we'll use the tool to build a report. Pop to cash flow. Again, standard cash flow statements, beginning, end. Here's a cash flow detail. This gets a little more interesting even. As you know, with Excel, we do have some fun charting capabilities. So now, and again, as Denise showed us in the trend report, you can use that trend analysis and you can get a graphical representation on an account-by-account basis. But think if we can get graphical representation of your entire chart of accounts. So again, just taking that theory one step further. Not only are we operating in Excel, but let's use all the cool tools that Excel has to offer. Same thing with groupings. You'll notice I can group all my accounts here, all the changes, adjustments, etc. Now, while we're looking at these specific details, again, it's one thing to have the template so you don't have to recreate the wheel. But of course, DM2 and the full staff over there has a great training program, great examples and documents to get everyone up to speed on this. Okay, so that should make sense. Hopefully that makes sense. And again, if this little toolbar is in your way, we can remove it. If it's a little invasive, we can just close out of it so we can take a look at all of our reports, full screen. We're not obligated to stare at that the whole time. All right. Also, these groupings we'll mention, this is going to be reflective of your specific chart of accounts. So don't think that you are limited to use Sage Intelligence grouping requirements. All right, so that being said, let's take a look now and create a report from scratch. So I'm just going to add to this workbook, because I can. All my little add-ins, I've got my report designer add-in. Here's the show task pane, so my report, my tool comes back. Now, as I mentioned before, we're starting from scratch. So this is a completely blank canvas, not in the artistic form where we can use all of our creativity. These are financial statements, so we're going to keep it structured, keep it real. There is an hour recording and a PDF on report writing methodology. So a lot of times when we start off on this project, if we don't know what we want that end result to be, looking at just these cells can be rather overwhelming. So again, to reference the late Stephen Covey, I will say, begin with the end in mind. Have a good idea of what you want your end result to be so that you can start building from that. So the first thing, good best practice, is always a report title. I'm going to put down a year and a company. Now, my year, I'm in 2010, so we're just going to enter it manually for now, but we're going to expand on this in just a moment. Same thing with company. You can have multiple companies. I just have my ABX, but if you have more than one company, they will show up on this list here, and you can toggle between them by selecting them. The companies can have, if we're consolidating, they can have different fiscal periods, they can have different account structures, they can have different everything, as long as they're all within your Sage 100. All we need to do is get a little creative with Excel, and we can end up consolidating those. So again, all that detail can be attained through DM2. So the first thing, we know I'm using my ABX company, and here I have all my lists. Now, my lists start on the account level, which is the most granular level. If I drag and drop this, it brings my chart of accounts into Excel. Now you'll notice this is my full chart of accounts. So depending on what kind of report I'm writing, I may or may not need this type of detail. All right, we start from that piece and we go all the way up to our account categories, which if I drag and drop, this is the highest level. And again, this is just coming from our chart of accounts. So this is nothing new. It's pulling directly from the GL, from the general ledger, under the setup folder. Again, all of this has already been set up. So for the demonstration, I am going to use my main accounts because this is the easiest for me to work with. And take a look at our descriptions. Now in real scenarios, these other details that come through, account category, account group, account type, cash flow type, if we're doing a cash flow report, obviously this will be very important. Since we're not, I'm going to delete it. Same thing with account type. Now, account category and account group, this might come in handy later because with standard Excel, again, we're in Excel, I can now group my report. This is how you get that little plus minus sign. I can now group by account category or account group depending on how I want that report to roll up. So just a little tidbit there, rather than delete those, let's just hide them for now and we'll come back to them later. All right, so my main accounts, again, I'm not going to make this a specific financial statement because that spends a lot of time on the basic addition and subtraction. But let's take a look how this tool works. So I've decided I'm using my main accounts as my list. Pulled them in, that's all good. The next step is to decide what type of formula. Again, it's a little different from anything we're used to because we're not doing rows and columns one at a time. Now we're actually doing cells, right, on a cell-by-cell basis. So I'm going to say that I am on a calendar year. So January is my period 1. And right now, I have everything I need to build a report. I've got my report title, which is not very creative, but it's called report title. We've got our year, our company, our month, our period, so and our main account list. So what do I want the figures? What data do I want? Well, we can do, again, current period, current year. Remember I manually typed in 2010? We don't have to. We can say, you know what, bring in my current year. If I drag and drop, it does give me that 2010. Same thing, company name. I manually type it in. We don't have to. We can drag and drop company name. Brings that in. Now, what do we want here? I want my actuals. Again, opening balance, closing balance. We have a lot of different options, but we're going to do actuals. I drag and drop my actuals into that cell. So the next step may be familiar for some of you, was completely foreign to me personally, so don't feel bad if this functional argument is different for you. However, this is standard Excel. So what we're doing is we're creating Excel formulas that's going to bring through our actual figures. But we don't have to become Excel experts and write the formula from scratch. We've got this little helper box that can help us build the formula for us. All we have to do is fill out the blanks. So if this function argument, if this function bar is new to you, there's this help, handy dandy help. This goes through everything, what the formula builder does. It also tells you the piece, if it's required or optional, what specifically needs to be filled in, and then it gives you the purpose. Now this purpose is going to be extremely helpful because if we take a look here, it tells you if you want to wildcard, tells you how to use wildcards. I'll go back. If you want to do addition and subtraction, it shows you how to do addition and subtraction, other mathematical calculations. So this help field, again, is going to be very, very useful as you're starting on your new report writing skills. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to fill this in accordingly, and really we're just linking specific areas of the report to the formula. Our period, we're going to link this one. And company, since we're just using one company code, I'm going to throw that in manually. Because it's Excel, I do have the option to double click, and that will autofill that formula right the way down my report. So there's my actuals for January for my entire chart of accounts for my main accounts. I want to make this a 12-year report. I can pull it out for 12 months. You can see my demo data ends in May. But what we have now is a rather interactive spreadsheet. This can be really interesting. So if I want to check out what happened in 2009, I enter 2009, it updates the formulas. Let's see what 2008 looks like. Not a very exciting year in 2008. No worries, we'll go back to our 2010, and there's our figures. So from, again, just this dragging and dropping, we've got a lot of options on how we can build this report. So say we just want the first three, and then we want our actuals year to date. We'll say year to date, 2010, actual year to date. Same rules apply. We do have to fill out this formula. Now if you take a look, when you highlight a cell and you click on the formula bar, it does tell you specifically which data is being used to pull that figure. So we can see the main account, we can see the year 2010, and we can see period of 3. Okay. Now, regardless if you're in a fiscal or calendar year, Excel still will roll out the months for you, easy enough. And notice at the beginning here too, it says GL actual. So we can get really creative. If we wanted to do prior period, we would do actual -1. And now we can do if-then statements, conditional formatting. We have a ton of options. If you'll notice when I dragged in year to date, again, GL actual, year to date. So we can do rolling trend reports now. We can roll over the fiscal year. So let's go ahead and put my GL links in again for my year to date. On the A, the year, period will be 12 because, again, year to date, it's only going to bring from the current period. Company, ADX, say OK, and there's our year to date. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Now, if we wanted to add, again, like I mentioned, any of those formulas, right now we have a petty cash account. If we wanted to do a range, right now you can see this is all zeros. If we wanted to do a range, you'll notice it does give me some hints there because Excel is fantastic like that. I can say 1,000. I'm going to go to my receivables. Hit enter. So right now petty cash is 0. If I make that line a range, as soon as I hit enter, you can see those figures update. So now we really do have complete and utter flexibility over our chart of accounts. That being said, that's a great thing if we're the one who's responsible for creating the reports, but you don't want to deliver this type of report. Not to worry, this can be delivered in a PDF format, so the recipient won't have this type of control. Again, this is just from a report design perspective. Not everyone's going to have authority to design reports. Once we get everything the way we like it, then we can start entering our spacers and doing our totals. We can just do this again, and that's how ultimately these types of reports get built. So we kind of fast forwarded from that sheet to this lovely looking balance sheet and income statement. Okay. Now, one of the other features that we have with the new tool is this reporting unit option. Reporting units / reporting trees. So depending again on how your chart of accounts is sliced and diced, you might have, again, everyone's general ledger is a little different, but you can group your accounts on either locations. You might have C-store, card lock sites, warehouse, etc. However that needs to happen for your specific requirements. We do have this option for reporting units. We call them reporting trees, so we were trying to stay familiar terminology from FRX. You have the option to manage these reporting trees. So let's take a look. I'm going to look at my ABX cities. I happen to have it done by location, which is my second segment. But again, if you need to do masking on card block sites, or even if you're going to group accounts based on maybe gas sales, diesel sales, lube sales, etc., you're very familiar with your chart of accounts. So just kind of translate this into something that'll work for you. And you can mask based on any segment in your chart of accounts. This is easy enough. I've got my cities, all cities. So let's change this to U.S. cities. We've got our Canadian cities. If we wanted Mexico cities, let's see, we could add one. I'm going to spell it. Let's just do Mexico City. It's a little duplicate there, but rather than me have a spelling error, you'll notice for our chart of accounts, as long as we have, oops, let's go to the correct chart of accounts, type in our wildcards. It'll give us a nice little preview of those specific accounts. So we know we've done our masking right. I know I did because I see a list of accounts. And then you just drag and drop and you can build your tree. Really straightforward. Now, once we've built this, to incorporate it into a report, here's our cities, U.S. cities. Say I want to take a look at Irvine. I just drag and drop that and you'll see it updates the figures for Irvine. Houston, fantastic. New York, even different activity. So what do we do with departmental reports? You know, how do we create these types of workbooks? Well, what I can do, because it's Excel, I can copy and paste my report. I can call this Irvine. And again, we'll drag and drop Irvine here. That's my Irvine report. Copy and paste again. Drag and drop. We'll get New York. These are my New York figures. So you can do this on any way you're slicing and dicing your chart of accounts. The good news is, whoops, I got a little excited with my Excel there. The good news is you don't have to recreate the wheel. It's Excel. It's so easy to copy, paste, and get all these reports without having to reinvent anything. I'll rename that to Atlanta. Now from a distribution perspective, again, you might have, again, your diesel team that needs specific reports, or maybe it's by location, C-stores, what have you. To distribute these reports, we set up our distribution instructions, and let's just take a look at one of these instructions. We've got the East Coast Finance team here. This particular report, it's bringing in my figures from a report that I've run. So what this is sending out an email, and I can say, you know what, reference Mr. East Coast team, my final revenue, and my report title. Okay. Now when the email goes out, it's going to pull in my dollar amount and my report title. As I promised before, it's going out in a PDF format because I don't want my financials going out in Excel. PDF means they won't be able to make any changes. We say OK. Once you set up all your instructions, then it's very easy from this workbook perspective. My East Coast team, they'll get the New York and the Atlanta reports. The Irvine team, they're only going to receive Irvine's, but my VP of Finance, they need to receive all my income statements, balance sheets, not the drill downs. Get all this together. Again, magical checkbox, we can have this scheduled to run on the server. So if report distribution is a bit of a time-consuming process, or if it's a bit of a time suck, if you will, this will alleviate that entire painful piece. We just set it up, and we set it, forget it, and it'll run on the server. If you prefer, however, though, you can set it up, take a look, and then send now, would send it automatically from here. So you don't have to have it scheduled. Okay, so again, these reporting trees, this is new in 4.5. Same thing with, oops, where'd they go? There they are. Same thing with the distribution engine, new in 4.5. That being said, let's take a look at some of the other things that were new in 4.5. I'm going to return to my PowerPoint. So that was the add-in. Again, that report designer add-in, that drag and drop. You can get dynamic drill downs, you can mask, you can group accounts. We can use algebra now to really exclude or include a rule-specific account set. But in addition to that, once that report's built, we can save it forever and ever. Again, our reporting tree example, this is what I used. It's a location-specific hierarchy. However, your hierarchy may be grouping, again, like I mentioned, not just location. Card block site versus warehouses. Or you might want to group differently. You might want to group based on gas sales, diesel sales, etc. And however your chart of accounts works, the beauty is we now have the flexibility to group on anything you like. If it's in that Excel spreadsheet, we can make it a group. Also new in 4.5, that distribution engine that we just went over very briefly, but the main benefit here is we are going to set it. We're going to set it up, and if we choose to forget it, we can. Otherwise, we can go ahead and email those. We can email the reports, push them to an FTP site or SharePoint site, or push them to a shared folder on the network. The email's handy, though, because you can reference specific cells in the report without having to copy and paste. Some of the other additional features that we did in 4.5, again, performance enhancements are huge, especially with the new in-memory engine that's just making things up to 6 times faster. We saw that right-click drill down. That was really easy. Straight from the cell, right-click, and it brought us up on another tab with all that detail. So that's really handy as well. The universal query engine, again, we're just getting more efficient, better, faster, along with everything else. Okay. So at this point, that's our whole new features of the Sage Intelligence. I'm going to hand this back over to Tom, and we can talk about the next webcast.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Great job. A lot of information there, a lot of good stuff. I want to take this opportunity to make everybody aware of next month's webinar topic. It'll be on January 10th. At our usual time. We're usually sticking with the second Thursday of every month at 11:30 Pacific, 1:30 Central Time, and what we're going to be going over is Sage ERP Alerts and Workflow, which was formerly known as Knowledge Sync. I know several of our customers are already using Knowledge Sync, but we're going to have Don Farber, the Vice President of Sales and Marketing from Vineyard Soft, the publishers of Sage Alerts and Workflow, on board to help us give you an overview of how that works. And basically what Alerts and Workflow is a business activity monitoring tool that can allow you to automate a lot of things. You can automatically email, text, do screen pops on certain business conditions that you define. So you can be proactive and look at things as they occur and not after they occur. So, for example, if a customer is bumping up against their credit limit, you can, alert a variety of people through email, screen pops, or text messages to their cell phones. So we're looking forward to that. And as soon as this webinar is over, I'll be sending out an invitation that will look exactly like you see on your screen here. So you'll be seeing that shortly. And now I'd like to open it up to the Q&A portion of the webinar. As we said earlier, anyone who has any questions, they can enter them into the question chat window that you see towards the lower right of your screen. And we don't have any questions as of yet, so why don't we give everyone a minute or two if they have any questions. And then I know we're coming up on our 1 hour time limit pretty quickly here. And I know this is a lot of information that we've sent out. So if you think of any questions after the webinar has ended, feel free to email those to sales@dm2.com, and I'll be monitoring that email address and working with Denise and or Debbie to get those answers out to everybody there. All right, it does not look like we are getting any questions as of yet. So I think we'll go ahead and close things out. Before we finish up, I just want to remind everybody that today's webinar has been recorded. Once the recording is available, I'll post that along with a copy of the presentation slides on the customer content page of our website. And then I'll send an email message around to everybody letting them know when they're available to be downloaded. And as I said, if you think of any questions after the fact, feel free to email us at sales@dm2.com. I'd like to thank Denise and Debbie once again for doing a great job on their presentations. And I would like to thank everybody for attending today's Sage ERP Intelligence webinar. And that concludes today's webinar. Thank you very much.